Hi everyone, welcome back to Total War Therapy, and today, after 12 hours of recording and editing, so please consider to subscribe, I will show you every single battle from the Norsca, Monstrous Arcanum, the armies, the unique abilities of the legendary monsters, and the items that you're gonna get if you win. So put a like if you wanna support the channel, and let's begin. Hi, I'm Alberto, I'm a real person, and here you will find the beginner's guide, the battle unit roster, tier list, ranking, and many shorts. So if you wanna support the channel, please consider to subscribe. Let's start with the Glory Hunts, that are the three most important missions of these mechanics, because each one will give you, as a reward, a very powerful regiment of renown. Now, the first fight will be available by default when you reach turn 9, but the other two, if you want to unlock them, you need to progress with your technology. The first fight will be against the legendary monster Frigustrex Scion of the Cold Void, that is a Chaos Frost Dragon, a little bigger than the generic version that you are used to. This dragon will lead an army of creatures of the north that consist basically of ice trolls in the first phase, and then there will come other monsters and other Chaos Frost dragons, but I mean, more little at least. A very powerful ability of this unique dragon is the Howling Winter, that is this vortex magical spell that, it creates these little hurricanes that will tear apart your army. That's why you have to be careful to not deploy all your infantry very close to each other, or to, gather and surround the dragon. Just try to focus all your characters to hit it, because if you put all the infantry together around the dragon, believe me, it will be insane. So try to avoid it. And then there is another ability that is the Frost Breath, that is a hex, is not a magical missile as usual. So all your units in the map will suffer a debuff of lesser melee defense, lesser melee attack, and slowest speed, and slower speed. So remember that it's important that you take down as soon as possible this dragon, so he will not be able anymore to cast this vortex ability, and your units will not suffer this debuff anymore, and then you can focus on the rest of the army. When you finish the fight, you will get as an item, of course together with the Regiment of Renown unit, you will get this item that gives more armor, that enables the frostbite attacks that reduce the speed, and then they will give you this ability, to the character that will keep this item, that you can cause a vortex that is the lesser version of the one that we talked about before, and the range is very little, so the caster that is casting this spell, this vortex, has to be very close to the target. But anyway, a very good item.
Frigustrex is here for the taking, my lord. The weather is fierce in these climes, and is worsened further by the monster's presence. You must brave the storm, but be mindful of your approach. When you decide to charge the beast, the extreme winter conditions will slow the movement of your warriors.
The second legendary beast that you will unlock with the technology is the Great Mwherd, that in this case you will not fight against this group of mammoths, but you have to save, to rescue, to help them. So you will fight against an army of dwarfs, that there will be a lot of slayers and rangers, so be very careful, because the main weaknesses of Norsca, of course, are anti-large units and missile attacks. So try to address them properly, and be very careful of the group of mammoths, because they can be in danger sometimes, and if you don't have a unit fast enough to cover them at the very beginning of the battle, it can be problematic. So please first take some fast cavalry and monster, and then go to do this fight. When you will win, you will get, of course, the Regiment or Renowned version of this Mwherd, and then this banner that will give the death blow and the frenzy to a unit of Mammoth, of a feral Mammoth. That is very interesting, because you can boost your pet.
The great Mwherd of Bloodfjorn does not have the vast numbers it once did, my lord. The last of the mighty herd is now just a single family, including a protective mother and her young. Stop the vengeful dwarfs from slaughtering them. The calves are especially valuable. If they are tamed and trained, they will be a great addition to your army.
The third battle of this first tier of the book will be again not against the monster, that in this case is the Chimera, the voice of the Wastes, but it will be to help to save this monster from the enemy army that will be, in this scenario, this army of many different demons from all the monogods. There will be bloodletters, demonettes, pink horrors, plague bearers. So be careful, because of course, even if you are playing good, the Chimera can decide to put itself in dangers and you have to go to save it and rescue it. Now, when you will win the fight, you will get of course the regiment or renown of this Chimera, but also this item that will give you the flammable effect, reducing the fire resistance. Then it will enable the flaming attacks to this character, and it will boost a little the melee defense.
Chimera's coruscating hide has trapped a veritable storm of chaos. The triple-headed beast can barely contain it, and so it would seek to unleash these eldritch forces upon its foes.
Let's start with the Taming Hunts, that are the second tier of the Monstrous Arcanum Book, and you will unlock them when you complete the first mission of the Glory Hunts. Now, this legendary beast will be linked to a specific climate, and when you start the hunt with a lord, they will spawn in the closest location with that climate. Say that, let's start with the first one of the book, that is the Elder Dragon Ogre Shaggoth. That is a Dragon Ogre Shaggoth unit from the faction of the Warriors of Chaos that will lead an army of other beasts and monsters of the same faction. That will be Manticores, so this flying beast, then some monstrous cavalry of Dragon Ogres, and some other Dragon Ogre Shaggoths that are very strong. The army itself is not that powerful, but there is an ability of the boss, that is the lightning storm bombardment, with a cooldown of only 40 seconds, that will cause this huge storm bombardment that will tear apart your army. They will cause also your units they will make your units unable to move, and they will grant some spell resistance of 100% to all the units of your enemies. So they will be not affected by the storm, but your army definitely, yes, will suffer a lot of pain. That's why you have to be very careful and try to hit very hard the boss, the Dragon Ogre Shaggoth boss, as soon as possible, because once you defeat it, then you can finally focus on the rest of the army. When you finally defeat it, you will be granted this unique item, that is the Dragon Ogre Great Horn, that will give to the character a bonus versus large, a leadership aura size of plus 50%, more leadership effect to the aura, and the ability the Dragon Ogre Great Horn, that will be basically this bombardment of lightnings and storms.
You have cut the Shaggoth off, my lord, but you should tread with care. Treguard is more ancient and powerful than most others of his kind. Bringing him down will be no easy feat. Swarming him with several units at once may not be the best course of action. He is strengthened by the power of raging storms that can cause significant damage. Something brews in the sky overhead.
The second monster of this second part of the book is the Pestilential Toad Dragon, that again you can find it in the Chaotic Wasteland, and here it will lead an army of Nargle and Skaven units all together, and I mean, it's a nice combination. There will be some Pestigores, some Plague Ogres, some Bile Trolls, some Rat Ogres, and some Blood Horrors. So all together the army is particularly strong, and then this Toad Dragon will have this ability, this explosion, with a cooldown of just 45 seconds that will cause a lot of damage to all the units within the range of 60 meters. And then another ability called Corrosive Coating, that is an augment that can increase the physical resistance, the melee damage reflection of the unit when there is a lot of damage dealt to a unit back at the attacker. So you have to be careful about this unit and you have to attack it very hard, but I mean, overall is not a very hard fight, I mean, amongst all the other in the book. And at the end you can get this item called the Toad Dragon Venom Glance that will grant more base weapon damage to your character, the passive ability of the Cloud of Flies that will increase the melee defense of all the allies in the, the melee defense of you if you're engaged in melee, and then the suffocating contact effect.
Unstoppable though this loathsome creature may be in direct confrontation, it is the essence of the hunt to overwhelm it with numbers and pray to the dark gods that the sacrifice made in the name of victory is not too harsh.
The third monster here is the Cockatrice Sculptor. This one is particularly strong. You can find it in a temperate climate or in the savannah, and basically it will lead an army of some beastmen units, not necessarily Tzeentch. I mean, there will be some beastmen of Tzeentch, but also some harpies, some chaos spawn, some Gorherds, and so on. Now, this beautiful cockatrice has this enhanced petrifying aura that basically will reduce the speed of your units. Then in the second phase it will reduce even more speed to the 50% and the spell resistance. In the third phase the speed till the 75%, and in the fourth phase that will last forever, when after that, it will basically, your unit will be unable to move, the spell resistance will be of less 20%, and your units will become construct that you will think, why should it matter? Because then there is the second ability, that is Shatter, that when the unit is a construct, he will suffer this damage, this constant damage, if you are within the range of the cockatrice. So in other words, you have to hit the cockatrice and take it down as soon as possible, because otherwise all your unit will be, unable to move, and they will suffer a lot of pain. Then when you defeat this beast, you will get this Cockatrice Eye that will enable the magical attacks of your character. It will give it some barrier hit points, and then it will give it the ability Petrifying Gaze, in this case a lesser version, that will just reduce the speed of the enemies nearby.
Some cruel fluke, or maybe a facet of Tzeentch's inscrutable intent, this cockatrice can turn its assailants into effigies of living stone. If this happens, can they take their vengeance and slay it before it shatters them at its whim? A battle full of savagery and guile awaits you.
The fourth monster of this book is the Rancorous Manticore, and this is particularly strong. I will explain you why soon. You can find it in the Chaos Wasteland, in the mountain, and basically it will lead an army of some other beastmen units, mostly Cygors and Goreheads and some Minotaurs. Now, the big problem about this Manticore, that basically, first there is this ability called the Bitter Sting that will reduce many stats of the enemies that are within the range. And then there is this other ability that is crazy because it's too stubborn to die, and basically it will get this damage resistance of plus 50% and the attribute that it cannot die if there is an enemy lord or hero in the range of 90 meters. So if you wanted to defeat and win this battle, you have to keep your lord and heroes, of course, at the end. I mean, when the Manticore is at the end of its health, at that point you have to, you know, go away with your lord and your heroes, because otherwise the Manticore cannot die. And this is crazy. You have to be careful about this detail, because at some point you may think that your lord and hero is you know, is far enough, but it's not so. I mean, be extremely careful about that, and you will see that I mean, the fight is not that hard as it may looks like. And then if you win it, you will get the Manticore's Tail that will grant you some missile resistance, the attribute of causing terror, and then the transformation of Kadon, one single use, where you will be able to summon a unit of Manticore. That, I mean, it can be quite useful in many situations.
Creature standing on the battlefield may not be the same one the hunters have set out to pursue, but it matters little. For all their superficial differences, Manticores always fight with ferocity to rival the tenacity of the opposing party.
The fifth monster of the second part of the book is the Soul Eater Cygors, that are two. It's not only one, there are a couple of brothers that you can find in a temperate climate, and they will lead an army of other beastmen units with some reinforcement that will arrive at some point, and their reinforcement are probably stronger than the first phase of the army. But still, I mean, the first phase is with another Cygor that, I mean, believe me, their missile attack is very powerful, some Harpies and some Minotaurs. Now, this huge Cygor, the first brother and then the second, will have an enhanced range attack that will cause, I mean, a mountain to rain over the heads of your army, so it will destroy entire units before you will manage to, you know, enter its range of, I mean, to engage it in melee. My suggestion is to put in the vanguard a flying unit and to attack with the flying unit first, and just then make your army move. Otherwise, they will take a lot of damage. Then this Cygor has another ability that increases the miscast chance of, I mean, in all the map of the spellcasters, of course, of the enemy, that is you. So you will be not able to cast all the spells that you want. And then when you defeat the first brother, it will come the second brother with the second phase and the second horde of units. Then, if you defeat this monster, you will get the giant Cygor eyeball that will give you the curse of Anna Rare, that is a hex that will reduce many stats of the enemy. Sorry, my voice. And then another ability, the Doom of Darkness, that is about the leadership. And then the spell resistance of 20% to all the units of your armies. That, I mean, it's very, very great.
Do not take these behemoths lightly, my lord, for they are no ordinary Cygors. They hurl clusters of boulders with frightening speed, and will do so with reckless abandon. They are soul eaters, so it may be difficult to wield magic against them. Difficult, but not impossible. Like all Cygors, the brothers see the winds of magic through their single eyes, which causes them to be in a constant state of fury. Go forth and take the angry beasts down.
The sixth monster of this second part of the book is the Maddened Jabberslythe from the faction of Beastmen, that you can find it in the climate of the jungle and of the savannah. Now, this huge beast will lead an army of Beastmen with the multiple reinforcement, so be careful of your side. And then it will get an ability called Insanity that will reduce the leadership of all your units that will be nearby the monster. And then another one that is is called the Vicious of Madness, that is the worst, because it will cause the Rampage together with a reduction of the leadership and of the vigor, replenishment, that will affect all the units, till up to 5 units within the range. And yeah, so basically you will lose control of your units, and you have to be careful because they can be in danger. And then, if you manage to defeat this beast, you will get the Jabberslythe Tongue. That is an item that will grant your character the poison attacks that will reduce the stats of the enemy. It will reduce then the enemy leadership of all the region of 8 points. That is a lot. And then there will be the ability, the Sparting Bile Blood, that is a vortex that will cause some damage, not armor piercing, to multiple combatants.
With the monster now in sight, well before battle is joined in the flesh, another will rage in the mind. Victory does not lie in sanity restored, but on the other side of madness.
The 7th monster from the second part of the book, again from the faction of the Beastmen, that you can find in the temperate climate, is the Vicious Ghorgon, that will lead an army of Beastmen, in this case with a lot of Minotaurs and Harpies and so on, so it can be quite destructive. Then this giant boss will get this couple of abilities. The first is the Frenzied Challenge, that basically will cause the rampage to the enemy, that will increase the speed also, and it will reduce the melee defense. So your unit can be in particular danger, because not only it will get the rampage, so you will lose control and they will not follow your orders anymore, but it will also experience a reduction of the melee defense. So in this case it will be very, very vulnerable, so be extremely careful. And then the Brutality, that is another ability that increases many of its stats to up to more than 200%, so it can double all, more than double all of these of its attributes, many of its stats, like the charge, the weapon damage, so it will get far more stronger, and this effect is increased when the unit takes damage. So be careful, because when you start to hit him more, and it has the regeneration, this monster, so you have to be you have to keep this in mind, and it will get stronger, the sooner it will get to the defeat. So try to shorten that last time, and then when you will defeat it, you will get the Gorgon Fang, that will give you some armor piercing weapon damage, a bonus versus large, and the passive ability, the Strength from Flesh, where you will replenish your hit points when they are more than the 50% of base, and you are in melee.
Ghorgon sees no enemies, only meals. The only defeat it has experienced is the occasional slight indigestion. It is a harried, degenerate existence that belies the creature's power. And so it must end.
The last monster that has been recently added to the second part of this book is the Bloodthirsty Preyton, that will lead an army of Slaanesh related units, so both Dark Elves and Slaanesh units, together with some wolves. I don't know why, probably because it's linked to the forest theme. And then it will got 2 powerful abilities. The first one is the Terrible Malice, that it will execute the units below the 20% of hit points, of course, if it's engaged in melee with them, and it will cause a lot of damage. So you have to be very careful when you fight with some characters directly against the hit. And then there will be the Blood Sport, that is even worse, because basically it got far stronger, and with the far stronger I mean that it can reach some values of weapon damage, melee attack and charge bonus up to more than 300%. So it's like triplicate it, quadruplicate it. I'm not sure, but it's a lot. And this effect will be increased with all the units that I mean they fall down in that they can be both from your enemy and from your own army. So you have to be very careful of the losses overall, because this big monster will get stronger with any of them. And if you defeat it, you will get the Preyton Horns. That is a unique item that will grant you some physical resistance, the passive ability of Frenzy that increases your stats when the leadership is high, and then the ability the Preyton Horns that will reduce the leadership of the enemy and will boost the leadership of your troops.
When in flight, the Preyton seems an affront to all that flies. When on land, it spites all earthbound creatures. Only when it dies will it assume a form that brooks no disgust. So let it die.
Now let's start with the trophy hunts that are the last tier of the Monstrous Arcanum Book, and here, if you want to find and challenge this legendary beast, you need to travel to some specific locations and provinces of the game. That is particularly cool if you're playing with Wulfric, because it's the only character that can actually travel for these long distances, that otherwise with the other two lords it can be a little more complicated. In any case, the first monster is the Broad Queens of Karak Azul. That is not one single legendary monster, but it's a group of many, really many giant Arachnarok spiders that will attack you all together. Fortunately, I don't think they have some special abilities, probably just some enhanced stats, but they can still summon many units of little spiders, and then they are anti-large high tier monsters. Don't forget this, because your Norsca army will be probably consisting of many large units, and these Arachnarok spiders are the perfect killer for them. So be very careful when you play this battle, because it's probably one of the hardest of the Monstrous Arcanum Book. And there are different phases where, you know, even more giant spiders will join the fight. And then when you win this battle, you will be rewarded with this item called the Arachnarok Eggs, that will enable the poison attacks to your character, that reduces the stats of the enemy, the regeneration, that is a common attribute to many different characters in the Norsca roster, but it can be always useful, and then the ability to summon units of little spiders. This is very great, because especially if you're a spellcaster, for example, you may need urgently at some point a mid shield of little spiders to defend you from other enemies that are trying to engage you in melee. So quite powerful. Now let's watch the cinematics and then we can move to the next one.
The brood queens you seek are here, my lord, but do not underestimate this enemy. Seldom do hunters have to bring down so many giant spiders in a single hunt. Keep in mind that you will likely have to fight more than just the brood queens themselves. They will undoubtedly have their ravenous hatchlings ready to release and attack.
The second monster of this book is Blorgar the Mad Titan. That is a giant not of the Greenskins, but I think of the Ogre Kingdoms, the model of that faction. And it's very big, it's bigger than what you are used to, and you need to fight an army made of giants, of trolls, and some squeaks. So basically a large entities army that can be quite powerful, because the giants sometimes are very hard to take down. I suggest you to use a lot of missile units that, even if they are not maybe great in other situations, against these giants they are the best. Even because one of the abilities of this giant is the exploding fart. That is a hex area that reduces the leadership of your units of 50%. If you are not a lord and a hero. That is crazy. It has a range of 35 meters, so all around the giant, the most of your units will abandon the fight. Okay, because I mean, a reduction of the 50% is very strong. I mean, there are many units that don't even reach the 50%. So you have to be quite careful about this ability. But if you win the fight, you will be rewarded with the Stinky Giant Club that boosts your attack, sacrificing your melee defense, and then increase your weapon strength of the 35%. So it's particularly useful for a damage dealer, melee specialist of your characters. And then there is this ability called the Stinky Giant Club that will boost even more the melee attack and the base weapon damage of more than 60%. That is a lot, and the duration is of almost 1 minute. So this character of yours will be very powerful for this for this time, and yeah, it can be quite damaging. About the fight itself, as I said, is not that hard, but yeah, bring some missile units with you. And I forgot to tell you that you can find this giant in the northern Chaos Wastes, so it's a little more reachable than the other creatures, especially for the other two legendary lords that are Sayl and Throg.
Finally, you have found the dwelling of the Colossus, known as Blorgar the Mad Titan, my lord. The air in this cold, dank enclosure is still, and there is very little ventilation. This will be to your disadvantage. The Mad Titan is notorious for his repulsive flatulence. If Blorgar chooses to relieve himself of his vile wind, there will be little escape. Only lords and heroes have been known to withstand his foul stench.
The third monster of this part of the book is Radixashen, the Serpent of the Worldroots, that is a forest dragon from the faction of the Wood Elves, and even in this case he will not be the dragon the problem, but its army, because this army will consisting of many other forest dragons and then other units from the Wood Elves roster that are especially 3 men, that in this special battle they will reinforce the resistance of the main dragon, so you have to take them down first and then focus on the dragon that will be finally vulnerable. This is another hard fight in my opinion, but at the end, if you do everything correctly, and this dragon you can find it in the region of the Oak of Ages, so closer to the Wood Elves themselves. And if you win the fight, you will be granted the Forest Dragon Fang that will increases the melee attack of your character. It will enable the poison attacks that will reduce the stats of the enemy, and then it will give you this ability called the Dwellers Below, that is a vortex that you can use a couple of times.
There, my lord, it's coming. It's in the trees. Can you see it? The elusive Radixashen waits in protection of the oak. Now all that is needed is for you to trap the flying beast and slay it. But take heed. The tree men of the forest will not sit back while we attack. They will try and save their monstrous champion, just as it saved them in the past.
The fourth monster of this book is the Abyssal Shrieker, that is a Terrorgheist that you can find in the area of Castle Drakenhof. Now I don't remember if it's in the Badlands or in Sylvania, but one of these locations anyway. It is a Terrorgheist from the faction of the Vampire Counts, even of the Vampire Coast. I mean, it's the same unit with just a different name, and its army will be consisting of many dogs, many bats, and other Terrorgheists. You have to be careful about this unit because they are anti-large flying monsters that can be particularly strong against your, mostly large entities army. And then this monster has a couple of abilities quite strong. The Master of the Souls, where basically he summon a unit of skeletons with a range of 600 meters, so he can do it wherever in the map. And he can use it for 40 times, that is a lot, but I mean, just when the hit points are less than 20% at least. And then this soul binding, that it's a kind of stuff that damage yourself but damage the enemy too. I mean, quite a little weird, but yeah, in any case. And then, if you want to win this fight, the game suggests you to defeat the minions of this Terrorgheist first, because defeating these minions will weaken will make, you know, less strong the main Terrorgheist. So keep in mind this. And then, if you defeat the beast, you will get the Terrorgheist Skull that grants some physical resistance to your character, the Cause Fear, Cause Terror, that, I mean, there are many characters in the Norsca faction that they already have the Cause Fear and the Cause Terror, but I mean, if you give it to a sorcerer, I mean, a hero sorcerer, they don't have it. And then the Terrorgheist Skull, that is an augment that gives the blinded to the enemies, apparently. No, to you, but it decreases the cooldown of your spells, apparently. Okay, I think it's like that.
This might be your most difficult hunt yet, my lord. You face the Abyssal Shrieker, one of the most terrifying Terrorgheists to haunt the skies. It is driven by dark magic and will attack with its disease-ridden teeth and claws. It may be difficult to get close to the flying abomination, but killing its minions may weaken it.
The fifth monster of this part of the book is the Mother of the Flame, that is a flame spire phoenix from the faction of the High Hells, that is quite special. You can find it in the Ultuan, so in the region of the High Hells, quite hard to reach. And then its army will consisting of many Phoenix related units, so the Phoenix Guard and some Phoenix birds. Then there will be some cavalry again of the High Hells that will join the fight for the enemy, of course. Now this Phoenix can restore. It has this ability called the Mother of the Flame, that when there is the bird is injured, he will replenish the hit points of all the allies that are in the range, and the range is infinite. So it will heal their health, and it will give this speed, physical resistance, and melee attack bonus. So you don't have to fight the Phoenix at the beginning, okay? You have to focus on all the other units, and when you tear down the rest of the army of the Phoenix, you can finally focus on that. Believe me, keep in mind this, because otherwise it will be an infinite fight and you will never manage to win. Even because this Phoenix has a couple of spells. One is the Fairy Convocation, that is this wind where there is this Phoenix that just come up and incinerate the land in this, in the area. And then the Flame Storm, that is a high tier spell of the Lord of Fire, that is a vortex, very very strong. So, and the cooldown is just of 25 seconds. So yeah, I mean, you have to do everything correctly here. So again, first defeat all the other units and then focus on the Phoenix, because if the Phoenix got injured, it will replenish the hit points of all the allies units. If you defeat the Phoenix, you will be granted the Burning Phoenix Pinion, that is an item that gives you fire resistance, spell resistance, a bound spell, that is the Fairy Convocation, that is the same as this Phoenix that it goes down and incinerates the lands. And then the Rebirth, that is this passive ability, very strong, because it will, there is a chance of the 50%, but when your hit points will be less than 10%, it's possible that you will get this heal per second, that of a couple of you will get half of your health restored instantly. That is great.
The Phoenix and its flock protect each other. When the mother is injured, she will bless her guardians with the power of the flame. Kill her flock, then slay the childless mother.
The sixth monster of this part of the book is the Gargantulzan, that is a Carnosaur that you can find around the Golden Tower, so in the region of the Lizardmen. Now this is a very big Carnosaur. I think it's the size that I expect to be a Carnosaur, so bigger than what we are used to. In any case, again, the army will be consisting of other dinosaurs and even some very elite infantry of the Lizardmen, the Temple Guard, that you have to be extremely careful about, I mean, because if your army will be consisting of many large entities, believe me, these are the worst unit that you can bump into in the Lizardman roster, at least. And then this Carnosaur has this ability called the Invincible Rampage, that when he's engaged in melee, remember that when he's engaged in melee, in the first stage, so in the first almost a minute, he will get damage resistance just little. In the second almost a minute, he will get the armor piercing weapon damage resistance and more melee attack. And in the third phase, so after a couple of minutes and half, I think, he will be invulnerable, and he will get this more armor piercing damage, more melee attack. So yeah, I mean, you have to be very careful about these things, because it will last a couple of minutes, and then there will be a cooldown of 3 seconds. So you will have another window of a couple of minutes, 1 minute and a half, sorry, to attack him. So you really to focus all your strength, all your units on it, and to beat him in, as soon as possible, because if he gets invulnerable for 45 minutes, it will destroy all of your units without you being able to deal any damage. And then you will get as an item, if you win the fight, the Carnosaur Skull, that will grant you some additional armor, a ward save of 12, and then the Primal Rage, that when your leadership is not broken, you will get also a weapon damage and armor piercing weapon damage bonus. That, this effect will be increased with the time spent in melee.
This mighty predator is a worthy challenge. When it is enraged, it becomes invincible. Prolonged combat will trigger such a rage, so time your attacks well and avoid its full fury.
The seventh big monster of this part of the book, and I can tell you probably my favorite, is the Beast of Renna. That is a war hydra, a giant war hydra that you can find in the province of Nagaro, so in the territories of the Dark Elves. That will get this army of other beastmen. In this case, not of Dark Elves, but there will be other war hydras and some beastmen of any kind, a dragon and so on. And basically it has a lot of abilities. First, it has the Glare of Insanity that you can use it just one time, and it can cause a rampage of 40 seconds all around the map, okay, with also some less melee defense and less armor to all your units. That is, it's very bad. So for this 40 seconds, and it will happen at some point, all your units will be vulnerable and you cannot control them. So yeah, this is definitely crazy. Then it got to the Breath of the Hydra, that is a vortex, and also the Eye of Rejuvenation, that is a regeneration area with effect range of 35 meters. So basically all around the Hydra. So if there are some allies units in that range, they will be, they will get their health restored. So it's a particularly hard fight, and then this Hydra is very, very big. I love it. I just love it. If you win the fight, you will get the Hydra head. That will give you more hit points, more missile resistance, that causes terror, that, as I said, is shared amongst many characters already, but some casters, they don't have it. And then the unidentified Hydra head, that is a vortex ability that you can use 3 times. It can be quite damaging, and it has fire damage. So great.
Dark gods have gifted this creature the power to ruin minds. Be prepared for your army to lose control in the heat of battle. Slay this multi-headed beast before it drives all sanity from your forces.
The 8th monster of this book is the Hell Beast of Seep-Gore, that is a Hell Pit abomination that you can find in the area of Hell Pit, so at the north of Kislev, and in the region of Trot the Unclean. Then this beast will be followed by many Skaven units that are melee infantry, very strong elite melee infantry, some missile units that you know, you have to be particularly careful about because I mean they are Skaven, and then also some monsters. This is a strong army, I have to admit it. And then this beast got this Mwherd surge that basically we can summon a unit, and the game suggests you to defeat this giant monster first, because otherwise all the storm vermin infantry will be bred in the hell pit, and you know, and they will be unleashed to cause mayhem on the battlefield. So yeah, take down the giant beast before, and then the rest of the army, and you will get an advantage because this beast will probably, I mean, at least in my scenario, it will charge you first. And if you fight win this battle, you will get the Warpstone Teeth that will give to your character a bonus of melee attack, a bonus versus infantry, and then the ability, the Doom Rocket, that is a magical missile of the Skaven, but I think that there are some other faction that may have it. That, I mean, it's just a rocket like Boba Fett of Star Wars. That I mean, it's funny at least.
This thing is an even greater abomination than other creatures of the same vile ilk. Swarms of rats seep from its bilious form. Use your ranged and hostile auras to damage it before you are overwhelmed.
The ninth monster of this book, of this part of the book, is the Black Dragon Ascendant that you can find in the ancient city of Quintex, so in the south of Naggaroth, I mean between Lustria and Naggaroth. That is actually where, I mean, in the area where Wulfric starts, so you can do it at that point. Even, I mean, you have to wait to unlock this part of the book. Anyway, this monster will be followed by other Dark Elves units, very strong, a lot of melee infantry, some missile units, some cavalry, and a couple more of monsters. Then it will got an ability that is the Reveal in Fear, that is a regeneration, a heal per second that can last forever with a range of 75 meters, and this effect intensity will increase with all the enemies in the range that will get the leadership wavering of lower. So you have to be careful of your enemies that may rout, run away, and so on, because at that point this beast and in general the army of this beast will get stronger. And then he got the Ascendant Hubris, I think, I hope the pronunciation is this, that will give more base weapon damage, armor piercing weapon damage, and melee defense and melee attack. So he will make this beast very, very strong. And yes, this effect will decrease with the unit taking damage. So you have to hit this beast, I mean, as fast as possible. At that point, the fact that this unit will be weakened, this will affect the rest of its army. So you can follow just this rule. And then when you win this fight, you will get the Black Dragon Skull that will give you some spell intensity, so good for a sorcerer, the Cause Fear, the Cause Terror, and then a bound spell, the Soul Stealer, that is a direct damage to some characters or single entity monsters. That can be quite helpful. So yeah, definitely an item for a sorcerer.
The hunt fail now. Surely the Ascendant's pride will be vindicated. But this is not this creature's legend, but that of its pursuers. And so he shall be but a chapter in it.
The 10th monster of this part of the book is the Runt, that is a Dread Saurian from the faction of the Lizardmen that you can find in the Lustria, I mean the country of Lizardmen, and you can, this beast that is already very, very big will be followed by many other dinosaurs like the salamanders that you have to be particularly careful about, and I will explain you why later, some bastillodons, some cold ones, and then some other melee infantry of the Lizardmen, that especially the Temple Guard, they can be quite dangerous for your large entities army. Then this beast, I mean, just say in short that you have to defeat it as soon as possible, but trying to hit it with as less unit as possible. This is why it got a couple of ability. The first one, that is the Diligent Chewing, that basically the armor piercing weapon damage will increase up to 200% with the time engaged in melee. That's why you have to defeat it as soon as possible. Then there is the second ability, that is the Runt of the Litter, where basically it will get more splash attack, physical resistance and melee defense till, believe me, incredible incredible size, because the splash attack can triplicate, the physical resistance can be up to 50% and the melee defense to 48 more, and this effect increases with the proportional number of enemy units in range. So if you surround the beast, this beast will get even far stronger. So, as I said, just find a character that can deal with that, even if slow, even if in a very long time. But don't surround it, or at least like keep it busy with some other monsters and crossfire with a missile unit on that. This is the only way. And if you win the fight, you will be granted the Dread Saurian Tooth. That will give you some bonus versus infantry, the attribute Executioner, that when the enemies will be below the 20% of health of the characters, you can directly take them down, and then the Primal Instincts, that is generally an ability of the beast of the Lizardman, that will give you some boost when your hit points are less than 50%.
Bringing down the beast is something your warriors understand all too well. Yet it would be a curiously double-edged challenge. Despite being monstrously large, it seems unaware of its size. If surrounded, it will lash out with the fear-filled ferocity of an infinitely smaller creature. Its actual strength makes this a terrifying prospect.
The next monster of this part of the book is the Carrion Eater, that you can find around the Black Tower of Arkham, that is in the Southlands. Between the Southlands and the Badlands. In any case, in the territories of the Tomb Kings. And this is not the flock of many birds of the Carrion unit that you know from the Tomb Kings, but this is a single entity, giant Carrion, that is great. I would like to see it as a regimental renowned version of the Tomb Kings, that already have a unit of Carrion that are bigger, but getting a single entity unit of that, it's even better for me. And it will be followed by an army of some Tomb Kings units like the Scorpions, the Sepulchre Stalkers, some other Carrions units, and many skeletons. He will get a couple of abilities. One is the Dissolving Bone, where basically it's a direct damage that affects the enemies. That affects the enemies if the unit is a single entity. So in the case, it will you don't have to make it address a character or a single monster of yours, because it can be particularly dangerous, and it can execute that enemy with the health below the 30%, not like the 20% of the Executioner attribute. So it's even stronger. So avoid completely to make it get close to a single monster of yours, but try to make it surrounded of some infantry, some beast, monstrous infantry, that you will have plenty of them, and so on. And then another ability that is called the Insatiable Hunger, that is an augment with more stages. Again, with all the stages and with the time spent in melee, it will start to get stronger and to reflect more damage. So all the damage that you will try to deal to it will just give it you back. This is a particularly strong unit, and that's why I really would like to get it as a regimental renowned version. Please Creative Assembly, if you arrived to this point of the video, just follow my advice. I forgot to say that when you win this fight, you will get the Carrion Spine. That is an item that will reduce the vigor loss of your character. It will give the passive ability, the Carrion Spine, that will increase the speed when the hit points are greater than 50%, and then it will give the Stalk and the Vanguard deployment. That is one of the most powerful attributes for this game.
Pursuit has honed the Carrion Eater's appetite sufficiently. The hunters may now seem to it like mere morsels of flesh. Has it finally made a grave miscalculation as to who is the hunter and who is the hunted?
The 12th monster of this part of the book is the Wise One, that is a celestial lion from the faction of Grand Cathay, that you can find it in Grand Cathay, of course, and it will be followed by an army of other Grand Cathay units, like the Jet Lion, the Jet Lions, and some peasants, together with some units that will join the fight later. Now, it has a couple of abilities. The first one is an augment that gives the Unbreakable attribute, the Expert Charge Defense, and the Unyielding Assault to all the units, all the allies that they are nearby. So, all the units that will fight with the lion together will be far stronger, and with the Unbreakable attribute they will be impossible to make rout. So try to, you know, split the lion with the rest of the army. And then the Guttural Roar, that is another hex that dramatically decreases some stats of your units, so be careful about that. And when you win the fight, you will get this Celestial Lion feathers that gives the passive ability of the Wounded Pride that basically increases some stats when your hit points are less than 50%, the charge bonus of 35, and for the faction of Norsca, of course, it will give the Encourage attribute for some flying units like the Chimera, the Manticore, the Preyton, and the Preyton that you can recruit with the Monstrous Arcanum Book, and the Chaos Frost dragons. That, I mean, is not particularly useful for this kind of unit, even because the Encourageability it's already possessed by many other lords, but I mean, okay, it can be good in some circumstances, probably.
Beast has finally settled. Is it merely tired, or finally resolved to make its stand? Its noble mien may prompt one to sympathize with its plight. Yet the impulse must be resisted and exchanged for bloodlust to match the Wise One's roar.
The last monster of the video and of this part of the book is the Bull of Akshi, that is one of the many winds of magic of this game. You can find this bull in the region of the Tsar Nagaron, that is, in the area of the Chaos Dwarfs in the Darklands. This huge bull will be followed by an army of Chaos Dwarfs units, many goblins, many orcs, many hobgoblins, many orcs, some other Chaos Dwarfs units, some fire glaives, and many iron demons. This is very important, and a hell cannon. Now, this bull has some particular abilities, and so listen to me carefully. First, the Molten Body, that is just an upgrade of an ability that they already have by default, that increase the physical resistance and the melee damage reflection with the time engaged in melee. But the second ability is more important because it heals of 1% every second and gives the melee damage reflection to all the units, all the allies units of this beast that are Hell Forged. So basically the Kedai Destroyer and the Kedai Fireborn. So if you're trying to destroy them, it's almost impossible, because with this effect that has infinite range, all these units will get their health restored every time you will try to hit them. So you have to first annihilate and take down the big bull, and then you can focus on the other monster. Consider that especially the Kedai Destroyer, it's very strong, so it's not an easy unit to keep busy, to deal with. But yes, you have to prioritize the bull and then focus on the Kedai Destroyer, otherwise it's impossible to win. And if you win the fight, you will get this item called the Bale Taurus Hoof, that will give you the flaming attacks to all the units in the army. It will take off the fire resistance to the enemy, and then it will give the passive ability, the Blazing Body, that will give the melee damage reflection, the physical resistance to the character with the time spent engaged in melee. Thank you for following me. I don't have the voice anymore, and I have a plane to take soon, so Please don't forget to subscribe if you enjoyed the video, and let's see very soon.